Good afternoon, everyone out there in internet web land. And on this Wednesday, and everybody loves Wednesday. Don't we all love Wednesdays because that means Thursday's coming and Friday, and then the weekend will all be off, right? Right? Everyone's going to be off on the weekend. Okay. Here in downtown Binghamton, it is a beautiful, beautiful day. Not what I usually say, is it? But it's a beautiful day, and the dog is anxious for her walk, so she may come in and visit us. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. This is Yvonne DeVita at Smart Conversations, and my special guest today is Heneka Watkins-Porter. And Heneka, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be here.
I can't wait to tell you more about this woman. This woman, I saw you, Heneka, on Kathleen Gage's show, and you just blew me away. You're so talented and so smart and so active. And I thought, I want to talk more about that with her. So, everyone, this Heneka Watkins Porter is an entrepreneur. Don't we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here? She's a coach, she's a 5-time author, international speaker, and host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. And she's interviewed Lisa Nichols, Richard Branson, John Lee Dumas, Paul Carrick Brunson, Seth Godin, and many other influencers. She is the founder and CEO of Patwa Apparel. Heneka is also the creator of the Caribbean's first virtual conference and expo, the Entrepreneurial You Virtual SME Conference and Expo, as well as the online health summit, Slow Down and Live. Health is Wealth, and we're going to talk about that. She hosts LeaderCast events in Jamaica and writes for the LeaderCast blog and Thrive Global. And we're going to share, everyone, her books and her social links and all of those things in the podcast or in the blog post later. But Heneka, I just, I'm looking and I'm reading that, and you've talked to all these really great people, but the truth is, life isn't about how many influencers you interview on your podcast, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not about any material gain. It's not about anything that you would have accomplished goal setting. You're killing it. It's not about that. Life is about living.
Mm.
And as simple as that sounds, many of us are not living. Many of us are caught up in the hustle and grind. And where's that gotten us? So it may have gotten us a few accolades, some dollars in the bank, some network connections, some of that. But in terms of true wealth and happiness and reason for living and that glow, none of that I mentioned earlier will give you that. Those things are temporary. What will sustain you is good health. Because even as I'm sitting in this room talking with you, Yvonne, I remember, because my home office, very tiny. And I remember just laying on my couch one day last year in 2020, and I was looking around at all my accolades on the wall and the books that I've written and everything that I've done, the places that I've been. And I became so uh, despondent, as it were, because I started to resent those things because I was very ill. And I thought to myself, had I not been pursuing all these things, I may not have been in this position. I mean, clearly, no, I have another perspective because it's not the things that cause it. It's actually me not didn't have that ability or that willingness to slow down and live, as you mentioned. So for me, life is really about living well, eating right, exercising, meditating, praying, being centered. And even as I'm speaking to you, because I like to have very real conversations, and even as I'm speaking to you, Yvonne, I recognize that I am almost entering back into that anxious mode of wanting to just do, do, do. And I have to consciously remind myself to pause and to say my health is priority because having suffered significant severe burnout over last year, um, I really found out what really mattered and that my health is priority. So yeah, I have to stay in that zone.
Yes, yes. So so often, especially entrepreneurs. So we're told as entrepreneurs that you should work those 80, 90-hour weeks, that you should put in all this extra time, that if you don't, then you really aren't looking for success. And I'm with you. I disagree with that. I think that we have to look at the bigger picture and be more careful about where that success is taking us and how we're getting there. So, gosh, I've been there where it seemed like I just felt so exhausted at the end of the day. I mean, I would lie down at 7 o'clock and sleep. That's it. I was out for the whole time. And I'd wake up the next day and think, what did I do? What did I do for me? Where was me in all of that, right?
Mhm.
Are we losing the me?
Yeah, and truthfully, when you talked about, oh, you went to bed and you lie down 7 and you sleep throughout the entire time. Wow. I mean, I would give anything for that to happen. Like,
Mhm.
even now, and I share my story because I don't want people to sympathize with me, but I share my story because I want people to recognize what is possible when we don't take care of ourselves. So I am actually going through adrenal fatigue, and
Oh, wow.
having gone to a myriad of doctors, over a dozen doctors, nobody was able to put a finger on it. So when I eventually went to a naturopath, after several doctors, and she diagnosed me, I kind of did figure out, that's what I was going through. But it came with all these, so it wasn't just fatigue, but it came with all these myriad of physical symptoms, of burnout, of extreme dark depression, anxiety, insomnia, all of these things. So when I hear you talk about laying down to sleep at 7 and you just sleep through the whole night, wow, that is golden, golden. Because even though I'm actually just waiting on my sleep study results for this new doctor that I'm also seeing, to determine what's next for me, because I do not sleep at all.
Well, sleep
So,
is
and
so
that,
important.
yes, yes. Luckily, I've changed my diet to a vegan diet, or at this point, about 98% vegan. And if I don't do full vegan any day, I get sick. So I cannot, so I have to stay there. And I've been exercising and drinking water, taking sunlight, all of these things. And recognizing that, that the sleep is still off. Like, I would just fall asleep lightly and that's it. So I'm actually trying to, talk to it. I'm doing a sleep expert study with him, and he will now direct me what do I, based on what he sees, what will happen next, because that's the level of my burnout. And so I have to put myself as priority, not writing books. And yes, I still want to do stuff, and I'm still working with clients, and I'm still, but nothing half as what I used to do, because I've
Mhm.
completely slowed down. Because the me is important, as you asked. So for me now, every day, just going up to the hills and just walking. I do a wicked hill. The hill is terrible, but it's so nice when you're done with it, when you've gone over it. And know, I mean, that's a hill that persons will only manage once per week. No, I'm doing it every day, 5 days out of the week, and I'm doing it sometimes 2 times. So I do 2 sets of that. And that is just so golden. There's a community there that we all discuss health, and so on. So finding the me is so important, and just not allowing other people's schedule to interfere with mine, and to take priority over what my health dictates.
Well, I relate to that because we live in a sort of rural area where we're on a very steep hill. And so when we walk the dog, we go up a steep hill and then it levels off a little. Then we go up another steep hill and then we go down and then we go back up another steep hill to get home. And I gotta tell you, Heneka, before I started working out, and this has been about 5 to 6 weeks now that I've been doing a little bit more workout here at home, I would just struggle up the hill. And there were days where I say to my husband, I can't do it. You take the dog, and I wouldn't go. But it's so much better now. And I get out there and I do it. And it's the me. I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it because somebody else thinks I should look a certain way or weigh a certain number or have something that I be able to say, oh, are you exercising? Well, sure I do. I don't do it for those reasons. I do it for me.
Absolutely. And getting to that place, Yvonne, is so key. It is so key. When you start, it's good to, to serve others, but you cannot serve from an empty cup, right?
Right.
It is important that you take care of yourself. And so many of us, particularly those of us who align with the term entrepreneur, we neglect taking care of ourselves because we've been fed the lies that it's, we need to be on team no sleep and hustle and grind and work hard because that's how success is going to come. Sure, that's how it's going to come. But did they tell us that in the midst of that, self-care is absolute key and it's critical, right? Because it doesn't make sense that after a while, you're not going to be able to serve anyone if you're not able to. For a couple months, well, I could do nothing last year. I mean, so while everybody was, um, being bogged down by the pandemic and all of these things, for me, the pandemic didn't even exist because I was battling for my life. So I couldn't even stop to look at what was
Mm,
happening with the pandemic,
mm,
to tell you how distracted I was with my health, because that was the thing that was affecting everybody, yet I couldn't even give attention to it. So, I had to be at that place because, people tell you, oh, you need to slow down and rest and you need to stop and whatever. I say, yeah, I'll rest at some points and, I'll have time. Well, thankfully, and I'm very grateful that I'm alive, because what I have been through, people have gone through less than that and they're not around. So
mm,
I am so grateful and I live every day in gratitude. And I know it's such a perfect reminder for even me to remind myself that I need to live in gratitude because I'm in that space right now, like I mentioned, that I have to constantly remind myself where I'm coming from, and where I don't want to get back to. And don't be anxious because it's easy to get anxious. Like right now, there are just so many things that are surrounding me.
mhm,
And of course, now recognizing, hey, there's a pandemic happening and it limits my movements. And there's so many things happening in other parts of my life and stuff. And it's easy for me to get anxious. And I'm just bordering that point of just, being constantly anxious. So it's key. And I have to constantly remind myself, and having these conversations, I find are so useful because these conversations, one, remind us of where we ought to be. And it kind of allows me to check in with myself and say, hey, remember, you're encouraging people to live well and healthy. And so you need to practice what you preach, right?
mhm.
So it is like a check for me to, to self-check and evaluate and assess and like, hey, remember what brought you there. You cannot do that again, right? And you have to keep on that path that you've created, and it can be easy because once you feel like you're getting better, then you start to regress and then the cycle will continue. So this is a
Mhm.
perfect time to give myself that reminder to
Yeah.
share that with everyone.
Well, I think here in the States, one of the things that really bothers me is the availability of fast food. And I see these commercials for Kentucky Fried Chicken
Mm,
or, I mean, and they show these delicious burgers that are dripping with ketchup and whatnot. And they now they're adding bacon to everything. And I just keep saying to myself, why are they trying to kill us? Those
that's
are not
exactly
good
what they're doing.
foods. Good foods are natural foods.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a point when I thought to myself, I couldn't go plant-based. I couldn't go all of these healthy stuff. I couldn't. I mean, I actually have it on my vision board, like right on my office door. That's on my vision board, health, fitness, and all of these things. But I thought to myself, how am I going to get there? How am I going to not have fried foods, fried chicken? How am I not going to have pork that I love? How am I not going to have beef and curried goats and all these things? How am I not? But then my health happened and nobody had to tell me to stop. When I went to my naturopath and she put me on this diet, detox diet, and what I would have had in the first week is within my second day I recognized, hey, but I am on a diet of vegan, for vegan. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And it's been a great journey. There are days when I do miss meat and I do want to go back to how I used to eat, but then I remember my health and like, mm-mm.
Yes, I can so relate because I haven't gone vegan yet, but I have given up red meat.
Mhm.
I mean, that's it. My diet, my doctor wanted me to do that anyway. And still I will look and I will think, well, I could just have a hamburger. And then it's like, no, I don't really want one. To be honest, I want one of these new veggie burgers that I bought. Or now that we have this Impossible burgers, which are all plant-based, I really like them. They taste really good. But I mean, I know Kathleen Gage, who is the person that got us together. She is about plant-based, which I'm studying and I'm so fascinated with, and I think is just so phenomenal. And I think from Kathleen, I have learned so much about eating habits and the fact that you are the person responsible for your body and what you put into it and what happens, right? It's
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely, absolutely. And for me too, one of the things I never thought that I could do was to go on a intermittent fasting. I didn't even know that there was such a thing
Right.
until I started my health journey, and my naturopath gave me a schedule. I only eat 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's it. That's it. I never thought I could do that. And I even though I'm not yet 100% healed and everything, but I can feel so much better. I feel so much better just eating that way, and just the fact that I have a schedule, so I know I don't have to worry about, okay, I have to find something to eat 3 times per day or 4 times per day. No, I eat 2 times per day. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't look at when we hear the word diet, we think it
Mhm.
means we have to lose weight. And
Yeah,
really, what it means is we have to treat our body as a temple. I mean, I'll tell you, Heneka, that was way back in the 60s when I was a young girl. That was popular talk about treating your body as a temple. Unfortunately, there was a lot of drugs involved with that and back in the 60s, and we don't recommend that now. But when you look at yourself, your physical presence, because the physical presence is just part of it, you have to take care of the physical presence to help this presence and this presence.
absolutely. 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 And I always say that we are, excuse me, physical spiritual beings housed in physical
Yeah.
bodies, right? And so our bodies really, as the Bible, which I subscribe to, that our body is a temple of God. And so we have to, this one temple that we have, take care of it. And that's what it really means, to take care of that temple. Make sure that whatever you're putting in is feeding your soul, is feeding your mind, is feeding your spirit. Because the junk food, when you eat those things, you feel like it satisfies you in the short term, but in the long term you feel terrible. And when you feel terrible, your mood gets bad, you're anxious, your anxiety is heightened and aware, and more aware, and all of these things. So it doesn't work. It doesn't benefit us to do that at all.
No, and I think with entrepreneurs who tend to be busy, so this was my downfall back in the day, is I got so busy and I would work from 8 to 6 and I would be hungry and I might stop for something for lunch. I would have something frozen that I would put in the microwave. And then at dinner I'd be too tired to cook, so I would get takeout.
Mhm.
And that spiraled into a big weight gain and feeling sluggish. And I think that contributed to my being tired all the time. And so, gosh, when I finally um, looked up and said something has to change, the first thing and the easiest thing is to change your diet, because even though you're busy, everyone, even though being an entrepreneur makes you busy, you can prepare things ahead of time. We started preparing things on Sunday and we would have food for the rest of the week.
Absolutely. All it takes is a matter of planning. And as an entrepreneur, you know that. You know how to plan. That's what you do, right? So why not apply it to your own personal life, your well-being, your self-care, like you're trying to serve everybody and you're trying to bring in this book and you're trying to be all things to all people. But in the process, you are losing yourself. And what does it really profit you to lose yourself? Yeah. It doesn't profit you to lose that. No, it's the one thing you have that you can control. Everything else is fleeting. You can't control the stock market. You can't control your competition coming in. You can't control those things, but you can control what you put in your body. You can control the amount of hours that you put into exercise, or meditating, or going for a walk, or just speaking, just having a conversation with somebody on the street. Those things will slow you down, and it's important for you to factor those in, and include them in your life.
Yeah. So I'm looking at one of your books, a 31 devotional for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, the 31-day devotional. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, so that devotional, I co-authored it with a good friend of mine, Dr. Vinette Joseph, and it was just an idea I had like a couple years ago when I met him in St. Martin, because we actually spoke together at an event in the Caribbean. And just speaking with him, we decided, we're going to do something together. And I recognize that entrepreneurs, we need something to keep our minds going, because we can be very distracted, and get our minds focused, because we can be very distracted just focusing on the things that we need to do. And sometimes, we need to apply a little wisdom. Not sometimes, we always need to apply a little wisdom. And the good book just gives us enough of that to keep us, stable, to keep us grounded. And so I launched it, I think 2 or 3 years ago.
And tell us a little bit about, so 31-day devotional for entrepreneurs. Give us a couple days of devotionals that we could do.
Okay, great. All right, so let me just grab it right here. I think I thought I had a copy. I gave away my last copy.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah, that's okay. One with we talked about, setting goals. So things like setting goals, things like, having the right mindset and things like that. So those things, and working towards whatever it is you want to work. Be diligent when you're working towards your goals. Do not just slack off. Yes, I know I want to include the fact that you need to take time for you, but do not slack off on the things that you have set out to accomplish. You need to make sure that you're being purposeful. We talk a lot about purpose.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about just the things that you need to do, just being grateful to. Gratitude is big, because when you open your heart, when you do gratitude, you open your hands and your heart to receive more. And so we find that as entrepreneurs, the more of that we do, it is beneficial. Just another principle I want to talk about from that devotional is just being a giver, being a river and not a reservoir. Just giving, because the principle applies. When you give, it comes right back to you. Maybe not in that way, but in different ways, tenfold what you would have given. So it really is more blessed to give than to receive. So it's a great feeling when you can give and you can serve others, because ultimately that's what we're doing, why we're doing what we do.
Well, and so it sounds to me like being able to be thankful. I read a quote yesterday, and I can't remember now who said it, but I think it was a Native American quote, that something about, if you think you have nothing to be thankful for, then the problem is with you, because we all have so much to be thankful for.
Gratitude is a must. Gratitude is a must. We have so much. And sometimes we just pause to write those things down. That is why I'm big on gratitude journal. Just pause to write the little things that you're grateful for. You'd be surprised how things start flowing and your problems dissipate, because you are focusing on the things that you have, not on the things that you want to have.
Exactly. And I think the things that we quote unquote want to have, for most entrepreneurs, the women I talk to, they always say, well, I want to help other people. So I help people write books, and they want their book to help someone else. And that's the only kind of person that I want to work with, is someone who's looking at how to put that out there so someone else will have the benefit of their experience and their knowledge, and they become successful, because the more you help other people, the more you receive.
Absolutely. We're right on track there, right on track. The more we give, the more we get. in different ways, and in from people that we never thought that we would even get help from, you know.
And that's the other thing is I want people to open their minds and their hearts, because what you just said, maybe what you get back isn't the exact thing. It goes back to that famous thing that be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. So here I am, I'm a new entrepreneur. I want to be this big success now. Suddenly God says, okay, and throws it in your lap. And what do you do then? So just be grateful, look to your body as a temple, and be spiritual. I mean, tell us a little bit about your spiritual things that
Journey.
you do.
Oh, absolutely. So I aligned with the Christian faith, and so I'm big on reading my Bible. I am big on prayer. You know, those are the things that get me through. Just listening to songs, meditating. You know, sometimes I find myself just reading the psalm, like, you know, a number of the psalm, for example, just going through them, reading them aloud, because somehow it just stills my spirit. And
Mhm.
prayer does that, and just my faith in Jesus Christ just does that, anchors me. Because when I look back on all the things that I've been through, the most recent and most traumatic, of course, is my health. I recognize, if I didn't have a source, if I didn't have something to send to me, then I don't know where I would have been.
Mhm.
And so I'm very, very big on, you know, you don't have to, I'm not one of those who say you have to be on your knees 24/7 and you have to be praying constantly, like aloud, and you know, you always have to be in a church or something. No, because I find now that I'm closer and more grounded, you know, to God, with God, is that it's a relationship. It is a relationship. It's about, you know, recognizing that there is someone greater, outside of our being, that is responsible for us being here and responsible for me being here. You may not subscribe to it, and that's fine, but that's what I do. And
Mhm.
I all I ask for is that you respect my view, that you give me space to express my faith, because my faith in Jesus Christ is what anchors me. You, somebody else may have something else that anchors them, but for me, I'm anchored, I'm grounded, and I'm so grateful to have the presence. And even as I'm speaking with you know, I can just feel that presence just embracing me, right? Because I'm telling you, like, I'm in that moment of anxiety, and in that moment of just, or almost bordering back anxiety, and I have to be reminding myself to pull back, you know, and to pause. But just talking about that presence, and I'm so glad you asked that question, Yvonne, because just talking about that reminds me that, hey, I'm not alone. I'll get through this. And so too, everybody who's watching, who's listening, you will get through this, whatever your this is. I mean, outside of the pandemic, because in the pandemic is one thing, but we all have our individual things that we're faced
Mhm.
with, on top of being entrepreneurs, mothers, authors, speakers, coaches, whatever it is that we find ourselves doing in our vocation. We have those things, but we have the pandemic to contend with. We have our own selves, because we can be enemies of our own selves. The things that we tell ourselves, the you know, the self-talk, the negative self-talk, all of that, you know, we have to contend with all of those things. So we absolutely need an anchor, and I'm glad I have one.
Yes, and that is perfect. That is a perfect ending for today's show, because I am very spiritual. I'm not very religious, but I do pray. I do believe in prayer. I believe that the collective human consciousness can accomplish so much with prayer, and I think that's why when we as a society, or we as human creatures, as these beings that we are, with our soul and with our mind, when we put that out there, there's someone listening. For you, it's Jesus Christ, and I so respect that, and I think that that's just perfect, because it's okay and it's important. And if you don't have this ability to take those little bit of time, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or when you're meditating, to be thankful, to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And to then put something out for other people into the universe.
Yeah, yeah. Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have closed it better.
No, but you have really inspired me to think even more about this and how it is affecting my health. And so when I share this, I'm going to be kind of heavy-handed on talking to people about the fact that it's your health that gets you where you want to be. It's not, talent is good, energy is good, being focused is good, but you have to have your health, because who wants to get there and then keel over? Nobody.
Absolutely.
Nobody ever.
Yeah.
Heneka, this has been so fantastic. I feel so inspired. I cannot thank you enough for being on the show.
Thank you so much. And in all transparency, Yvonne, I mean, I'm in this space and because that's what I've been saying. Like, when I saw that or scheduled time is coming up, and I'm feeling like I'm beginning to feel so overwhelmed, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, but it is the fact that I got to be here and to do this, all in spite of how I was feeling. I did it. We have this conversation, and I'm so blessed. I feel so blessed to have this conversation with you because it's a timely one. No more than ever, we're in a space where everybody is just going like, oh my gosh, and losing their minds and everything. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that we could have had this conversation. I'm
yeah.
happy I did it.
I'm glad. I am so glad also, and I can't wait to share it. So I want to say thank you, and perhaps down the road we can do this again, because little reminders are always good, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I thank you so much. All the best to you and your audience.
Thank you. So this is Yvonne DeVita from Smart Conversations. And by the way, Heneka, what is the best way for people to find you?
The best way, henekawatkisporter.com. There is my social media handles and all those things are there, and the WhatsApp link to send me a message directly.
Excellent, excellent. So I will be sharing that. And this is the end of today's Smart Conversation.